I allowed my fiancé to move in and let him make rules for my son, restrict his internet, cut off his screen time, put parental controls on everything, and monitor his every activity just for safety. Now my entitled son has abandoned me and left my house with his father. Plus son's response. I 43F have a 15-year-old son. His dad and I divorced 4 years ago, when he was 11. Since then, he's split time equally between both of our houses 50/50 custody, alternating weeks. It's been smooth, no major drama. We've always kept things child-centered and respectful, which I've been proud of. 2 years ago, I met my now fiancé. He's great, kind, grounded, good with finances, and reliable in a way my ex just wasn't. He has a 10-year-old son, same age gap as between my son and his stepbrother. I waited almost a full year before I even introduced them because I didn't want to destabilize anything. When I finally did bring it up, I sat down with my son first. He didn't seem overly thrilled, but he told me he was okay with it. His exact words were, "I'm just happy you met someone else." It felt like a green light to keep moving forward. Things progressed slowly until COVID. My fiancé and his son ended up moving into our place earlier than planned. It just made logistical and financial sense at the time. Schools were online, jobs were remote, and he lived 40 minutes away. We figured it would only be temporary until the world opened up again. But you know how that went. Temporary turned into permanent. That's when things started to get messy. I realized very quickly that my fiancé and I had very different parenting styles. I've always been pretty laid back. I trust my son. I don't micromanage. I give him space. He's never been a bad kid, so I felt comfortable giving him a lot of autonomy, especially with technology. He had his own laptop in his room, his own phone, and unrestricted internet access. I was never a fan of helicopter parenting. But my fiancé, he's much more rules-oriented. His son isn't allowed to take devices to his room. No unfiltered internet. No screen time on weekdays, and even on weekends it's capped. His kid has parental control apps on everything. At first, I chalked it up to being overly strict. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I figured we could just parent our own kids our own ways. That didn't last long. Once they moved in, the differences became impossible to ignore. His son started melting down, constantly. Tantrums, whining, crying fits, because he couldn't do the same things my son could. He'd see my son with his laptop in his room for hours, and feel like he was being punished for no reason. It turned into tension at every turn. My fiancé and I had a lot of late-night conversations. Initially, I was defensive. I told him my son wasn't the problem. His expectations were just too rigid. But over time, he made points I couldn't ignore. He showed me research, examples, and even articles from parenting experts. And honestly, I started to feel kind of ashamed. Like maybe I'd been too relaxed. I was letting my son disappear into his screen for hours every day. And I hadn't really considered how much it might actually be harming him. I hate admitting this, but I started wondering if my son's attitude, his occasional irritability, and some of the emotional distance I'd noticed in the last year weren't just normal teenage stuff, but a product of unchecked screen use. I started second-guessing how I'd handled things, and I thought, maybe my fiancé had a point. Maybe structure would help. Eventually, we decided to create one consistent set of rules for the house. Not to punish anyone, but because the inconsistencies were tearing the house apart. I felt like I owed it to both kids to give them a fair, stable environment. Equal expectations. Shared rules. It was a big shift, and I knew it would be hard, especially for my son, who was used to more freedom. But I also still believe it was the right move. So we sat him down. It wasn't just me, my fiancé was there too. We explained that we'd made some decisions together as the adults in the household. That it wasn't about favoritism or punishment, but about keeping things fair and safe. We told him the new expectations were as follows. No unfiltered internet access. My fiancé brought up a valid concern that unrestricted access wasn't safe or healthy for teenagers. We'd install a filter on all home devices. No laptops in bedrooms. My son had always kept his laptop in his room, but we both agreed this wasn't the best idea anymore. Too easy to lose track of time, hard to monitor. Screen time limited to 3 days a week, 2 hours a day. The rest of the time, we wanted to encourage reading, being outside, hobbies, or just interacting with us. More than that, and we felt it became isolating. A parental monitoring app installed on all devices. We made it clear this was for accountability and safety, not spying. We wanted to know what apps he was using and how much time he was spending online. We were calm, not accusatory. We explained our reasoning clearly and treated him like someone who could handle a mature conversation. He didn't take it that way. As soon as we laid out the screen limits, he got visibly upset. When we mentioned the monitoring app, he completely shut down. He said these rules were insane and controlling. He kept repeating, "This is bullshit," and "You're just trying to run my life." I reminded him that I'd been too liberal before, that I was trying to correct past mistakes. I said I understood it was a change, but it was coming from a place of care. That didn't help. If anything, it made him angrier. He stood up mid-conversation and said, "Then I'm just not going to live here anymore." I told him that wasn't a reasonable solution, but he wasn't listening. He went to his room, packed his things, and texted his dad to come get him. By that evening, he was gone. He was gone by the end of the night. His dad didn't even call me to talk about it. He just pulled up, grabbed his stuff, and that was it. Since then, he's stayed only at his father's place and hasn't returned. Not even to pick up a few things he left behind. He barely talks to me now. If I text, I might get a K or nothing at all. Calls go unanswered. He won't even talk to his stepbrother, and they'd been getting along okay before all this. He's basically gone no contact unless it's through his dad. I knew he'd be upset, but I never thought he'd go nuclear. He didn't even try to meet me halfway. He didn't say, "Can we renegotiate this?" or "Let's talk later." It was just, "Nope, I'm out." Like none of the last 4 years mattered. What really stings is how quickly he dropped me. I've been his primary parent. His dad wasn't even in the picture properly until after the divorce. He told mutual family I chose my new family over him. That I let some man control how I parent. That one stung. I didn't hand over parenting. I made a joint decision with my partner in my own house about what felt appropriate. If he were 6 or 7, sure, I'd have approached this differently. But he's 15. He's old enough to follow basic boundaries without throwing a tantrum and burning the bridge behind him. I'm also not going to apologize for treating both kids fairly. It's not acceptable for one kid in the house to get unlimited access, while the other can't even have a tablet in his room. That creates resentment and chaos. We tried letting them follow their old rules separately. It didn't work. It turned our house into a war zone. No one was happy, and frankly, it wasn't sustainable. And no, I'm not just going to reverse the rules to get him back. I don't believe they were wrong. I was too lax before. My fiancé made a good point that just because my son didn't act out visibly didn't mean everything was fine. There's damage you don't always see. And I shouldn't have needed a younger child's tantrums to realize how out of step our parenting balance had become. The worst part is how others have taken his side. My ex called me and basically said, "What did you think would happen? Like I deserved this." My own sister told me I was setting myself up by changing the rules that late. A few people even hinted that I chose my fiancé's parenting style over my son's comfort, as if this was some kind of replacement family situation. It's frustrating because they're only seeing the result, not what led to it. They weren't here for the months of arguments and breakdowns. They weren't seeing how my stepson was falling apart emotionally because he felt unfairly treated. No one sees the exhaustion I dealt with trying to keep both kids from resenting each other. People act like I threw down a new rulebook overnight, when this was the result of compromise, stress, and effort to avoid chaos. People also forget that it's not just about comfort. He's a teenager. Comfort shouldn't outweigh good judgment. If a kid's comfort requires unrestricted screen time and zero parental oversight, then maybe comfort isn't the goal. Still, even though I stand by the rules, I can admit it hurts to be cut off like this. I didn't think our relationship was this fragile. That one conflict would be enough to make him walk away from our home like it meant nothing. It feels like punishment for doing what I thought was the right thing. I've tried reaching out. I've offered to talk things through. I told him we could revisit the rules with him involved in the discussion. No response. His dad says he's not ready to talk to me, and he doesn't push. I don't know what ready looks like. Weeks have passed and still nothing. He's now saying he doesn't want to come back at all. That my house isn't home anymore. I know teenagers are dramatic, but the coldness of it is staggering. Like I'm not even his parent now, just some woman who enforced a curfew and got cut off for it. I haven't told my fiancé how deeply this has affected me, because I don't want him to feel like he caused it. He's tried to take responsibility, said maybe we pushed too fast. Maybe we should have eased my son in more. But I honestly don't think it would have made a difference. My son decided to draw a line the second something changed that he didn't like. He just had to find a reason to blow everything up. Now I'm stuck. I won't bend the rules just to get him to talk to me again. But I also can't pretend this didn't tear a hole in our relationship. I never thought I'd be the parent a kid ran away from. It's humiliating. And I can't even talk to him about it. People online will probably say I should have kept things separate, one set of rules for each kid. But that already failed. It didn't work. I tried it. I loved the chaos it caused. And when we finally set unified expectations, my son walked. I want to be open to rebuilding with him. I'd go to counseling. I'd sit down with a mediator. But I'm not going to start that conversation by apologizing for doing what I genuinely believed was right. I feel really hurt. Comments. Comment 1. YTA. Your son is 15. Your partner's son is 10. That 5-year gap is huge at that age. It's not just numbers, it's life stages. Your son is in high school, probably dealing with social and academic pressures your stepson hasn't even begun to understand. They shouldn't be under the same rules. Also, 2 hours of screen time, 3 times a week, for a teenager in 2020 plus. That's unrealistic. It's not 1998. Most of his friendships, and even schoolwork, are online now. You basically yanked away his primary mode of socializing. Structure is fine, but this wasn't about structure. It was about making things equal, at the expense of being fair. And now he's gone. Hope it was worth it. Comment 2. So a man moves into your house during a pandemic, and within months, you're letting him dictate how you parent your son. AITA. Your son had no behavioral issues, no problems flagged until your stepson started throwing tantrums. Then suddenly your son's freedom became a problem. From his point of view, he got punished just to stop another kid's whining. And yeah, 3x a week screen time at 15 is absurd. Of course he walked. I'd be surprised if he came back. Comment 3. YTA. It really sounds like you bent over backwards to make your fiancé feel in control of your household, even if it meant steamrolling your own son. You didn't discipline your son because of his behavior, you changed everything because his stepbrother couldn't handle seeing someone else have more freedom. Your kid is 15. You've had 0 issues with his electronics. But now some guy you've known for 2 years says, you were too lenient, and suddenly he's grounded half the week and monitored like a toddler. I'd leave too. He's old enough to recognize when he's being sidelined. And you're not just letting it happen, you're justifying it. Update. First, I'm not being controlled by my fiancé. These rules weren't his rules. We talked about them. We went over every single change together, and I agreed to all of them because they made sense to me. I'm the one who decided that my son shouldn't have unrestricted internet access. I'm the one who said that laptops shouldn't be in bedrooms. These weren't foreign ideas forced on me. I wasn't some pushover. I'm a homeowner. My fiancé and his son moved into my house. If anything, I had the final say, and I still chose these rules. And let's be honest here. There's this fantasy some of you have where a 15-year-old should have complete autonomy just because he hasn't caused problems. But being quiet online doesn't mean he's safe or making good choices. You don't know what your kids are doing unless you check. I wanted to know what sites he's on, who he's talking to, and what content he's consuming, not to punish him, but to relate to him and guide him if needed. The online space is full of toxic garbage, misogyny, violent content, and harmful ideologies. Pretending a teenager can just freely navigate all that is naive. I didn't take anything away without cause. I changed the environment in my home so it worked for both kids. My fiancé's son had been raised with rules. He followed them. He wasn't having tantrums for fun. He was reacting to the fact that in our blended household, he was being punished for having structure, while his stepbrother did whatever he wanted. That double standard was poisoning the relationship between them. We were trying to set a foundation where they could connect, not create resentment. Some of you seem to think I was supposed to just let them grow up in 2 different realities under the same roof. That's not functional. I also want to address this idea that I chose my new family over my son. That's crap. I've been the stable parent. His father checked out for years and only got his act together after the divorce. Meanwhile, I'm the one who fed him, stayed up with him, and supported him emotionally through the split. He knows he was loved, and he still is. But love doesn't mean rolling over every time a rule is challenged. He left because he didn't get his way. It was a power move. I reached out. I offered to talk it through. He didn't want to talk, he wanted the rules reversed with no discussion. That's not compromise. That's manipulation. As for my fiancé, no, he's not happy my son left. That's another stupid assumption. He actually feels guilty and keeps asking if he ruined the relationship. But I keep telling him, he didn't. We both did what we thought was right as parents. We sat down and made choices for the health of the household. If my son refuses to even have a conversation, that's not something either of us can fix alone. Some people asked why we didn't just let the boys live under different rules. Because it doesn't work. I've tried that. I watched it breed jealousy and entitlement. My fiancé's son started acting out because he saw different standards applied right in front of him. He wasn't trying to control my son, he was trying to understand why he had rules while his stepbrother didn't. That kind of division just fractures families. Anyone pretending this is about one 10-year-old pitching fits doesn't understand how blended households actually work. Let's talk about the rules themselves, since so many people are acting like we handed him a prison sentence. 3 days of screen time per week, 2 hours a day. That leaves plenty of time to socialize, play games, and watch videos. And nothing stops him from texting friends, reading, drawing, going outside, or literally just being a human outside of a screen. Most of you act like we unplugged him from life. That's ridiculous. We didn't ban screens, we added structure. No laptops in bedrooms. That's standard in a lot of homes. Why does a 15-year-old need to be alone with a screen for hours behind a closed door? If there's nothing to hide, then it shouldn't be a big deal. Bedrooms are for rest and privacy, not for 6-hour gaming sessions, late-night chats with strangers, or endless Reddit scrolling. I want my son to develop healthy boundaries. That starts with visibility and shared expectations. Parental monitoring apps. Welcome to 2025. Teens do not need complete privacy on digital devices. We weren't reading his messages or spying, we just wanted visibility on apps and sites. That's not invasive, that's parenting. And no, he wasn't singled out. The rules applied to both boys equally. For those who think I didn't try to adapt again, I'm the one who let them move in. My fiancé could afford a place on his own. He offered. But I told him it made more sense for them to join us. I wanted to create a home where everyone felt included. We talked about the logistics, the parenting, and the merging of routines. We didn't just drop this on my son overnight. We spent months adjusting. It's about parenting forward instead of cleaning up disasters later. If that makes me a doormat, fine. I'd rather be a doormat with boundaries than a cool mom who turns a blind eye while her kid spirals in front of a screen, getting exposed to who knows what and never building any discipline. Do I regret how things turned out? Yes, I hate that my son isn't here. I miss him every day. But do I regret the rules? No, I stand by them. They were meant to protect, to build structure, and to create a fair home for both boys. He chose to walk instead of talk. I didn't kick him out. He left. You can say why Tia all day, but I know what I'm doing. I'm not perfect, but I'm not weak, and I'm not handing over my house to teenage ultimatums, just because people on the internet think I should have let him do whatever he wanted in the name of trust. He's always welcome to come back. I've told him that. But this time, we'll sit down like adults and talk with each other, not just walk away when something doesn't go his way. Comments. Comment 1. You're not a doormat. You bent over backwards to parent your son like a stranger because your fiancé was uncomfortable with the difference in rules. You are a doormat. Your son wasn't spiraling, wasn't addicted, and wasn't failing school. He was living like a normal teenager. You just didn't like how that made your new man's parenting style look. So you threw your kid under the bus to keep the peace with a 10-year-old and his dad. And now you're shocked he left. You showed him where he stands. Hope the stepkid appreciates the sacrifice because you've made it crystal clear who you're willing to disappoint. Comment 2. This update is actually worse than your original post. You're still trying to justify parenting by committee. We made these decisions together. Yeah, exactly. You made his decisions together. Then you implemented rules for a 10-year-old onto a 15-year-old with no history of issues. And now you're shocked your kid left. Let's be real, this wasn't about protecting your son. It was about making your fiancé feel better. You say you're not weak. Then why are you acting like your own kid was the problem instead of the fact that you let your new man set the tone in your house? Comment 3. Here's a question. Would you have made any of these changes if your fiancé and his kid had never moved in? No. Then stop pretending they were for your son's benefit. They were for your fiancé's comfort. You got guilted into reparenting your teenager from scratch because your new man's kid couldn't handle being told no. You blew up your relationship with your son so your fiancé wouldn't feel like a failure as a dad. Now you're alone in your house with a 10-year-old who has screen limits and a 15-year-old who won't even look at you. Bravo. Response from the son. I found this post, and yeah, I'm pretty sure my mom wrote it. It took me about 10 seconds to realize this was about me. I was scrolling AITA out of boredom, and I saw a post that sounded way too familiar. So, I guess it's time I gave my side. First off, I didn't flip out because of the rules. I left because of how the entire situation was handled. My mom didn't sit me down and talk about new expectations. She dropped everything on me after her boyfriend and his son moved in. Like my life was some piece of furniture they had to rearrange to fit theirs. Let me say that again. I had zero warning. One day it's just me and her. The next, some guy and his kid are in my house, and I'm supposed to just go with it. No talk. No heads up. Not even a hey, I'm thinking about having them move in. It was like I didn't matter. He's not just strict. He's abusive. I watch the way he talks to his kid, no eye contact, no warmth, always orders. He's got this, because I said so, attitude that sucks all the air out of the room. His son was always quiet, like scared quiet. My mom calls it structure. I call it emotional suffocation. And now that same guy shows up in our house, starts calling the shots. And suddenly, I'm the one being monitored and restricted like I'm the problem. I never caused issues. I didn't sneak out. I didn't get bad grades. But apparently, that didn't matter anymore. Then came the rules. 3 days a week. 2 hours a day. No laptop in my room. Parental control apps. All of this was dumped on me at once like a punishment. Not a conversation. Not a compromise. Just, these are the rules now, and you need to follow them. Her fiancé couldn't handle that his kid saw me living like a normal teenager. So they decided I had to shrink myself to make the 10-year-old more comfortable. I get that little kids get jealous, but guess what? That's a parenting problem, not mine. Also, let's stop pretending this guy is some stable father figure. He has no job. He's been looking for months. No income, no career, no plan. He moved into our house because he had nowhere else to go. My mom owns the place. She pays the bills. But somehow, this dude is now co-parenting with me. The math isn't mathing. And yeah, I said no thanks and packed my stuff. Not because of rules, but because it became clear where I ranked in that house. My mom's energy shifted the second he moved in. Everything became about him and his son. I wasn't even background noise. I was just in the way. The final straw. We had an argument, not even a bad one, and my mom literally said, "You need to respect this family." This family. As if I'm not part of it. That was the moment I knew I wasn't coming back. I went to my dad's, and I've been here since. He's not a cool dad, lets me do whatever. He has rules too, but they're reasonable. I can keep my laptop in my room because I've never given him a reason not to trust me. I'm expected to help around the house, get decent grades, unplug when it's time, and be responsible. He treats me like I have a brain. Not like I'm one bad YouTube video away from being corrupted. I told him everything. He didn't badmouth her. He just said, if you don't feel safe or respected there, you don't have to go back. So I didn't. Also, let's be honest about her fiancé's parenting. It's not strict. It's controlling to the point of being emotionally abusive. That little boy walks around like he's scared to speak. He flinches when his dad raises his voice. He never laughs. He never plays like a 10-year-old should. I didn't have a relationship with him, but I noticed. Anyone would. It's like he's just surviving in that house. Now his mom fighting for full custody of him. Honestly, I hope she gets it. Not for her, but for him. Because that kid is going to end up emotionally wrecked if his dad keeps running the show. My mom may be frustrating, but she's not cruel. And at least he'd have a chance at a more normal life with her. So yeah, I'm done with my mom for now, at least. She made her choice, and it wasn't subtle. I didn't get mad over some screen time changes. I left because the message was loud and clear. The new man and the new family came first. I became a guest in my own home. She can call it structure, parenting, or doing what's best. But when your kid walks out without a second thought, that says everything. I'll finish off my post like she did. She's welcome to reach out. But it's going to take a lot more than, "You're always welcome here," to fix this. Because home isn't just a house. It's feeling like you belong there. And I don't anymore. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.